Hey there, welcome to the Good Stuff Podcast. On this episode, I sat down with Matt Milholland, who I've known for a long time, so grateful he took me up on the invite to come on the show. He's a financial advisor here in town, sits on the board of directors for the Union County Foundation. They do a lot of good stuff in town, so if you'd like to learn a little bit about them, stick around, and we just in general had a good chat about the community and some of the things going on there like usual. But just in case we've never met, my name is Derek Schwyn, host of the Good Stuff Podcast, Good Stuff Marysville. Been here since 93. Local business owner, but the Good Stuff Marysville project is my attempt to tell the story of our community with a glass half full perspective, talking about the good stuff going on here locally. That's also spun itself off into a media and marketing company that I help local businesses and organizations help tell their story, get their story out there to meet whatever goals they might have. So love to help you out there. As a real estate agent, I sell houses. That's why I talk about the community and why it's a good place to live. So if I can help you out with that, love to have you. I'd also like to say a thank you to our sponsor, Coffee Hall, for the awesome coffee, as usual, and a great meeting place, and KR Designs, who helped me make the sign. So, love to connect with you on any of those topics, but until then, here's the episode. All right, well, as I said, this is Mr. Matt Milholland. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Go ahead. All right. Yeah, hey, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. I was super excited. A Facebook comment turned into a conversation.
I was going to say, thank you for responding to my invite.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was happy to see that was effective.
Yeah, no, my name's Matt Milholland. I am, I'm not sure how I'm best known anymore. I'm a partner down at Milholland and Mitchell Financial Group downtown, but my wife, her name is Annie. We live out in the country here in Marysville, and outside of some college stints and living in Dublin for a couple of years, we've been residents of Marysville since 1992 when my family moved us here. So
I was trying to figure out, were you born here or just barely?
Born in Indiana. I'm the only one of the three born in Indiana. So that's my claim to fame. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm not very famous. So yeah, but Fort Wayne General Hospital. So then my parents said, we got to get out of here. Let's go to Marysville, Ohio. So
I'm always, especially for people that have been, like, I understand people coming here, it's very common for people to come here now.
Yeah.
Do they have any backstory of why they came or why they picked Marysville?
Yeah. So my dad, you have to pry it out of him, but he did play professional baseball. He made it to the AAA level. So for those of you that aren't baseball fans, the Columbus Clippers level is the final stage that my dad made it to. And I think in either 90 or 90, he stopped playing. And
I did not know that.
Yeah. So in 92, he got an opportunity with Edward Jones, actually, to take over an office in Marysville, Ohio. And what I learned just a couple of years ago was that they originally visited St. Mary's, Ohio. And they called Edward Jones and they said, boy, there's really nothing here. There's not a lot going on. And
you feel like to boat.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The recruiter on the other line was like, what are you talking about? It's downtown. And they're like, we couldn't even find downtown. So that turned into eventually a visit to Marysville. They moved here in 1992, took over the Edward Jones office. And then 2004, my dad went out on his own and moved all the way across the street, set up a new office. And now we've been in business together for, I guess, going on our 7th year. And we've got another business partner, Joseph Mitchell. And so I make a daily 10-minute commute from the country of Marysville to the city of Marysville. And
best way to do it, in my opinion.
Pretty good life. You know a lot about that. So, yeah.
Been doing the same one since about 93.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about your family too. And your parents, and my parents have known your parents for a long, long time. And Brandon and I played YMCA basketball together back when the Y was next to a skating rink. And
oh man.
Yeah. A long time ago, before the Chipotle. So, how long have you guys been here? Like, what brought the Schwyn family to Marysville?
93. So, Dad went to school for, was it IT? Programming? I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, he graduated from that, and he applied for Toledo and Children's Hospital. He got accepted a position at Nationwide Children's, and so said, okay. Central Ohio. And so as a real estate agent, it's interesting to process the different types of people trying to get to different places. And anyway, I was 6 at the time. So I can remember going to these random communities because basically they moved to Upper Arlington. And what I later found out was the Golden Ghetto. So not like Upper Arlington, but like
not
the ranch houses.
Arlington.
Yeah. But adjacent, I guess. But anyway, they were there for a while. And so, was that 91, I think? Everybody on the block was, hey, we're selling our house. man, maybe we should sell our house. Let's see. Because, same thing as recently, prices were up. They said, hey, sounds good. Let's try it out. Next day, got it in contract. So they're like, oh, what do we do?
Wow.
So that ensued the process of looking. And basically, dad came from a farm, wanted to be out in the country. And so basically what I'm getting at is looking at communities around central Ohio, mostly Northwest. So that's from mom and dad are from up Northwest Ohio.
Nice.
And just, best of both worlds. That's why I like Marysville. I say best of both worlds. We're close to Marysville, close to Columbus.
Correct.
And so I think it just was all of those things kind of wrapped up. And
Yeah. Well, and, not to just talk about my parents, but as part of my upbringing, right? So just things that I remember. I think in 1994, my parents built one of the first, I'll get the number wrong, but it was one of the first 20 homes in the original Mill Valley on Cinnamon Drive.
Yep.
So, I know one of the hot topics of conversation is apartments and new homes and lands being bought up to be developed. And I remember the original Mill Valley because that was the first home that my parents actually ever owned.
Mm-hmm.
And now you drive there and I can't even make my way through Mill Valley. I get lost and then I eventually resort to Google Maps and try to find my way out of it. And I
totally.
go, where's the Scooters Coffee? I know I'm close to the freeway if I choose
and
to
it just keeps growing.
Yeah. So I remember, like I said, the skating palace and then the original Mill Valley before the school was there and all that. So
yeah, I always say I can remember looking up out of the car and, coming into town on 31, looking right at Mill Valley and seeing an excavator taking the farm down, or like the last tree or whatever it was, the last semblance of a farm there.
Yeah.
And now I just listed a house there yesterday and it's like, those are the old houses now built in 2002.
Yeah.
I thought those were new at one point.
Yeah.
But apparently,
how old, right? Yeah.
Oh, crazy. But
yeah. Does that make you happy or sad? You've got farming in your blood a little bit, and then you've got real estate in your blood. So where do you fall on that?
I definitely far more,
tough question.
Find a, I should find a succinct way to communicate that. You're asking good questions so far. I like it.
The apartments, I can get on, I'm a 50-50 on the apartments, right? I can get back on I can get on board with some of the pushback on the apartments, but I'm always like, well, the real estate agents have to be happy if they're building more homes.
Well, so I was just having this conversation.
More to sell, right?
Yeah, I was just having this conversation this morning. I think it's just as legitimate if there's theoretically, if there's more houses to sell, and I've talked to other business owners that are like, yeah, there's more business to do.
Maybe.
Let's go with, well, what I'm getting at is theoretically in a proportional situation, there's going to be more real estate agents too. So the competition will grow with the population. So is it really any better?
Yeah.
Now, if you're a car dealership and we're not going to most likely get a car dealership from 5 more houses being built.
Yeah.
No more competition, but real estate agents, coffee shops, that kind of stuff, you're probably going to get some more competition. So I am much more of a small town. I stayed here because of what it was, not because of what it's becoming.
Yeah.
I'm not ignorant enough to know that it's coming no matter what. There's nothing I can do about it. I've spoken to that before. So I'm definitely, and it's the good question that I do like, about like, what do we do about it? And like, what's the problem? Excuse me, is who's the gatekeeper? Like, you moved here and helped grow.
Yep.
And there's, that applies, but where's the line of appropriate or inappropriate?
For sure.
Because a lot of people came here because it was a small town. And eventually, if that continues to happen, it's not going to be a small town, even though people say it is still a small town.
Yeah.
Well, no. Traffic.
Small is becoming a relative term, right?
Yeah, super relative. And you have people that say it hasn't been small town since the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Whose small town is... So definitely that's my case. So one of the big things we were going to talk about is your involvement and participation with the Union County Foundation. I got to admit, I know enough about it, but I don't feel like I know enough about it.
Yeah.
Like, basically, it's a bank for the community, so to speak, right?
A little bit, right? I mean, the Union County Foundation's mission is to facilitate giving in and around Union County. So, think about community leaders and impactful people who have, done well in life or have at least wanted to be charitable with their life savings and things that they leave behind. They've wanted to give that to someone, in this case, the foundation, to steward and get into the hands and organizations of those who need it most. So you were joking like, hey, you brought some notes, and I said, well, I don't want to misquote a bunch of numbers, but
no, it's I wish I was better with my notes.
no, I mean, so Dave Volrath was the executive director of the foundation, I believe, until 2022, and Adam Hodnicek is now the executive director.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam has had nothing but change since he took over, which is all good. But the foundation's been growing, and I think this year we hit about $20 million in assets at the foundation, and it's a substantial amount of money for a lot of folks who don't realize that there is a Union County Foundation or what it is we do. My role is the vice chair of the board. Greg Gerton is our chairman of the board, and we've got a fantastic board of community leaders and people with stories much more fun and interesting and successful than mine. But
don't be humble.
No, it's if I named our board members, you would agree with me on that. So, but we gave away almost $2 million last year, which people are also unaware of. The average grant, I believe Adam told me, is around $2,000. So people think, oh my gosh, you gave away tons and tons of money and put it back into the community. Yes, but most of that is small stuff that is scholarships and things that are going to, build a new playground at a park or help somebody plant some trees.
Not to interrupt, but that means you're getting more than $2 million in. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sustaining.
Theoretically, yes.
Really, not to get into any dirt, but I hope that's...
Yeah, well, if you turn the foundation into a business model, right, that's the idea is, hey, we want to be able to have individuals and businesses in the community give more so that the foundation can give more. And,
right.
Sometimes the amount of giving is dictated by the amount of folks that are reaching out for help, right? I mean, if there's more help and there's more need, then there's going to be more help provided. But at the same time, one of the I think jobs of the Union County Foundation is just to educate folks on, hey, if you have a charitable mindset and you're philanthropic and you want to make some sort of an impact after you're gone or while you're still here, you can give to a foundation and say, hey, I want to keep my dollars local. And to your point, like, hey, I came to Marysville because it was a small town and I want to help folks. Well, if you want to benefit the Union County Food Bank, boom, you can do that, right? Instead of having it go to another community. Not that that's bad, but if you want to support your local community in the ways that they need it most, the foundation's a great resource. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. This is my 4th year being involved. And like I said, every year I find out that I'm a little dumber than I thought I was because I'm surrounded by a lot of smart people. So I just learn.
That might be the definition of wisdom, right? Learning that you're not smart.
Yeah, if I I've always said if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So, you gotta relocate and keep learning.
I would, I like that.
Yeah.
So, and I assume it's a unique perspective on the pulse of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We know that a lot of people probably don't get, and just, what are the activities? What are the things going on? Not necessarily, I guess I'm getting at, it's more than just need, right? Like Encore, don't they have the musical group? There's nonprofits, so to speak, that you guys kind of help facilitate their financial aspect of, however you would best say that.
Correct.
So it also gets connected in some of those things of what's going on. What are the nonprofits that are serving the community? Maybe not, obviously it's serving a need, but not just needs based.
It's not always, hey, this family of 4 needs food, right? I mean, I think we all kind of have, when we say needs based, something comes into someone's mind.
That's right? What I was getting at. Yeah.
But it could be, just to use you as an example, it could be, hey, Derek and Ashley, they have left money to this fund called the Schwyn Donor Advised Fund, and it's going to be used. Yeah, it does sound fancy. It's really not. But that money is going to be used to help real estate agents starting up in Marysville, Ohio. Maybe you guys say, hey, it's our mission to help folks get started in this business that we love, and we acknowledge that it's really, really tough and there's startup costs, and when there's startup costs and no revenue, that's a problem. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. So you might say, we want our dollars to go towards that, but we want it to be in and around Union County. So take me, for instance, I come to Marysville and I say, hey, this seems like a nice small town, and I want to, try to set my feet here, and I want to start a real estate business, and I can apply for assistance through the foundation. They'll vet me, review things, and say, hey, is this a good fit for the Schwinn Fund to meet this need. In this case, the need is not, hey, I need help with my groceries, but there is a need to help someone in the community. And we're connecting purpose with need, right? So there's over 140 funds at the foundation. So when you mention the arts, some folks say, hey, I want to leave this $20,000 or this $1,000, whatever the amount might be, but I want it to benefit the arts in Marysville. So someone might come in and say, hey, we've got this initiative. We want to put on a play, but the play has upfront costs and we think it's going to be a benefit to the community. Can we get some assistance? You can use the foundation to, apply, have them kind of vet the need. We want to make sure people aren't taking advantage of the resources. And then we have a great committee that's going to approve that type of thing and then ultimately help match donor and fund with need and the person who needs it. So purpose can change in many, many ways when it comes to the foundation. Some people are a free-for-all, right? They say, hey, we just want to have need in the community that's health, education, or food related. Okay, great. Well, that's really broad. And you might help the family of four that needs help with the groceries. That's no problem. But sometimes it's, hey, we want to, put the arts center and prop it up and pay for new signage and the whole 9 yards. And it's going to be a benefit to the community. And can we get some assistance from somebody else that shares the same passion? Probably, but awareness of where to get those funds and how to find donors who also want to help in those areas is sometimes tough, right? So
yeah, and that's one of the things I am focused on now is communication and marketing, and in this marketing business that I referred to that we're working on, and how often that is such a central struggle to. And obviously there's such a busy marketplace, if you will, of social media and email and TV and billboard ads and all of the what do they say? We're bombarded with like 7 billion pieces of data. And, we can intake and we can only really process like 30,000 or whatever the numbers are.
Yeah.
But we got to cut stuff out. And so cutting through
number
that
of ads we see in a 10-minute period is an outrageous number.
Ridiculous.
So,
But just the challenge of that stuff. And I was thinking that as you were saying it, that's got to be a challenging pairing and whatnot. So how does that work? Is there like a committee or is it like Adam says, which I doubt that's the case?
Yeah, so Adam, he is the board is Adam's boss, right? So it's important for our board to be filled with people who are charitably minded, want to be thinking of the community first, and then ultimately Adam and Dave Volrath to start have done a great job of forming committees. We have a program distribution committee, and then we have an asset development committee. Now we can talk a little bit about the new building that the foundation purchased to become a philanthropy center. We have a buildings and facility. Yeah, you're a real estate guy. You're probably tracking transactions. And then I am in charge of the investment committee, which I say is like the strongest committee I've ever been on. I could leave tomorrow and everybody would be like, we're totally fine. We have unbelievable people on our committee.
That's awesome. Not the most common thing.
Yeah, it's great. So, ultimately the investment committee is sort of in charge of managing the assets, right? Being a steward from an investment perspective. And then the program distribution committee is obviously trying to pair up need with fund and giving source. And asset development, committee is obviously what it sounds like, right? Trying to find, you mentioned, hey, if we give away almost 2 million, we need to bring in at least 2 million. Asset development community is developing relationships with, community leaders in the legal space, financial space, and trying to figure out, hey, do we have connections, businesses, families, individuals that are charitably minded to where we can get them to consider using the foundation to benefit, Union County and the surrounding areas. So it's a great team. Everybody sort of works together like an orchestra, and usually the music sounds really good, but it's
been a long time, so it's obviously working.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. I'd get the year wrong. I want to say late 90s or early 2000s is when the foundation was founded. So should probably I'll get fact checked on that. But
I like it.
Yeah, been around a long time.
So I assume, not to make an assumption, but I assume it's harder to get money than give money. Like, I assume, is it a challenge letting people know that funds are available?
Sometimes. I don't want to sound accusatory of folks who don't take advantage of funds that are available, but sometimes there are scholarships available through different donor advised funds or just funds, at the foundation that high school students, guidance counselors, schools in general aren't aware of. Sometimes we've had people win scholarships and a year will go by without someone claiming their funds, which you would find shocking. So, I think initially it's just making people aware that, hey, go to the website, check out what's going on at the Union County Foundation, especially if you're a parent of a high school child, and just figure out where the resources are to potentially help with the next phase of life. If you're a nonprofit organization and you're operating in and around Union County, check out the foundation. I'm not going to say, hey, I promise there's resources available for everything. That's definitely not the truth. But, I think just kind of getting the word out that the foundation exists and, we're here to help Union County is step one. Step two is if you, can check it out and find out how you might be inclined to give. Yes, it's very easy to give, right? The financial planner in me says, talk to your financial advisor. They'll figure out the best way to give. Yeah. But, Adam is a certified financial planner. So you can also just call the foundation and work with Adam, and he knows how to give in a tax efficient manner. We feel like we've got an abundance of resources to help the community. And like we said, there's going to be growth. However, there's always going to be need as well. So just trying to figure out how to pair resources with need. And the foundation historically and today, I think, has done a really good job of doing that. So
just putting my marketing hat on of like, I wonder if there's any ways I can help or whatnot. So do you know the origin story of, we said, we estimated. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. I know,
that out.
There are a lot of names affiliated with like the foundation of Union County Foundation, that I think folks would recognize. I think a couple years ago we honored Dr. Mary Applegate. Dr. Dave Applegate's been heavily involved. Dr. Frank Raymond was heavily involved. Dave Allen. So there are lots of names. I'm sure I'm missing. I don't know what your audience is like, but please don't critique me on who I'm missing. I know I'm missing important people, but there's names that if you've been in the community for 20 plus years, there are names. The people walk in the grocery store with you that were involved in the founding of the group. And it just, once again, it kind of starts from a position of, hey, we want to help, right? And we want to get involved and figure out how to meet the needs of the community.
For sure. Yeah, I didn't know if there was any catalyst, like, what was that? I think there was
sort of an event that spurred it on.
Yeah, well, I think it probably is dovetailed with this. Was it the Uptown Foundation or Uptown? Man, what was that? There was like a group of similar folks that started buying up dilapidated buildings uptown, kind of with the purpose of, we don't want to see it fall into disrepair. Let's try to do something with it, or we're going to get it. And I think probably part of the catalyst was we don't want outside investors coming in, just, being non-residents, have people that are vested in the community owning property.
Sure.
And then like they were kind of charitable, so to speak, and we're going to give it, you've got something you could do with this building. We're going to help you get this and give it to you at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
If you're vested in doing something with it. So I didn't know, so it was a need. My understanding or my guess is that came out of a need of, our uptown buildings aren't doing so hot. We ought to do something. So I didn't know if there was like a trend or a pattern or something that was like, we ought to consolidate and raise funds or,
Yeah. Yeah, there is an origin story.
Next time you come back, you can tell us.
All right. Well, if you don't fire me, I'll be a return guest anytime. But I'm sure that there is an origin story, and Adam, I'll allow Adam to criticize me when I see him next. He'll say, how do you not know the origin story?
Sorry, I should have prepped it to say, should we cover that one?
No, it's all good. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and obviously it does a lot of good stuff, and obviously it has a purpose, and I'm sure there was something back then.
Yeah. The building. I want to touch on the building.
Thank you. I was trying to come back to that.
That's what I think is really exciting. So Adam and the board, have had this vision, and ultimately, a lot of this vision is attributed to Gary Lee, which most folks know in the community. But Gary passed away recently, and he was sort of in charge of finding a permanent home for the Union County Foundation. So, the foundation purchased the Frank Lloyd Wright House on, I believe it's 4th Street. I always want to say 5th, but
so just my understanding,
500 4th Street, West 4th Street, I believe.
You got it right.
All right.
It's been listed a few times, so I've seen the address. I believe it was Frank Lloyd Wright's apprentice, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
Fact check or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it was like his apprentice or something. Anyway, just
okay. No,
that's my understanding. Was his apprentice or something like that. If you know, leave a comment. Let us know because I don't know.
Yeah,
Positively.
please educate us, right? Learners. So,
lifelong.
But the goal now that the foundation has been kind of blessed with this building is we want to turn it into a philanthropic center for Union County. So we're actually working with a couple organizations like Care Train, like United Way, to all be in this central location so that we have lots of dollars, donors, individuals that have needs, nonprofits that have needs flowing through this one central location. And it's not just the Union County Foundation, right? There's amazing stuff the United Way does, Care Train auction, everybody's aware of at McAuliffe's for years and years and years. So trying to figure out how to get this place to be like one big philanthropic center that really serves the community for years to come. And that's sort of in the beginning phase. So the other thing is like, yes, you can give, and yes, you can check out the website to see if there are needs that you have that can be met through the foundation, but you can also help. We have
Get involved.
Yeah, we have a building and facilities committee now that's in charge of yard work and making things look great and tree service. And
so I'm going to do my best to remember to, let's see, what's my time marker so I can remember, because I usually forget the time. I'll input a video or picture of it because it is a really awesome building. It's got just the big trees out in the yard, in the big yard. And so it's not just a house. Like, it's a cool house.
It's fantastic.
So when you say facilities and maintenance, like, there's stuff to do, and it's a cool place to be at.
Yeah.
And
it's an old house.
Yeah.
Right? So,
what was it, like 1903 or 4?
Yeah.
I'll see if I can talk and look it up because now I'm curious.
No. While you're looking that up, it's most of the maintenance and the projects that get done are just volunteers, right? Adam wrote down a couple organizations that have helped out, like Green Scene and Axe Tree Services. They've helped out. Yeah. So thank you, Jason. Your house is beautiful, by the way. But they've donated some services to help the property kind of get up to the status and the stature that we want it to be for the foundation, and ultimately for these other organizations that are going to use the facility as their office space. So if you want to get involved and you have time and you're charitably minded and you say, well, I can't write a check for $1,000 to give, but I can give a couple hours on a Saturday, reach out.
That's
Adam will get you on the right committee. So, yeah.
I remember talking to him, like, I don't know. I can't remember if they closed, if you guys had closed or not, but his vision was about busting out of his head sounded a little too much for me, but I mean, really inspiring vision and the idea and the purpose and the opportunity that's there, and the pairing of the building, because it's a unique building. It's a house. It's a great fit is what I'm trying to get at, because it was on the market. It wasn't really appealing to anybody. It seemed like it was the perfect fit for somebody.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was a good timing and good calling that was the right a good use for it. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
Well, and that's, I guess, maybe that's more of a growth of Marysville situation, but it's like, yeah, even our business is in a converted house that was built between, I think, 1890 and 1900. We have something about it on our website that talks about the history, but it is really difficult to walk through some of these houses nowadays and you say, gosh, how would this be my house? Like, where would I go to do this? Or how would I use this room? And what is this secret door cut in the wall?
I'm fascinated with why. I've got a book that's about this thick that one day I hope to read. That's all of why houses are the way they are.
Yeah.
But my favorite is at one point you would go in, or you'd get onto a porch and there would be a door into the house to the side, which was the parlor where you'd get dressed up and you'd have guests over, and that's where you'd sit. And then there'd be like pocket doors that you could close so they didn't see your mess of your living quarters. And then there was another door that you could go in for like common folk or, your friends and family or whatever. But just those kind of like culturally, we would host people. So there were 2 different doors, because now you're like, why is there a door there? That doesn't.
We have a door on the side of our office that goes to nowhere, right?
Hey, maybe
if you were to go out that door, you just drop 3 feet down onto the pavement.
But anyway, but you're right. My point is, culture then we build them this way. Culture now, you're like, how does that work?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a fascinating. It's kind of close. It was built in 1912, remodeled 1961, as accurate as the auditor site is.
Wow.
I don't know. So, but there you
Awesome.
go.
Yeah.
It just a neat building for, it's definitely not the image that strikes into my mind when I think 1912. So
Yeah.
pretty neat. But anyway.
Yeah. So, thanks for letting me talk about that a little bit. We can
Yeah,
go
no, I think
any
that's-
direction you want, but the Union County Foundation is fantastic. And, get a hold of me, get a hold of Adam, check out the foundation website if you want to get involved. There's more ways to get involved that don't involve money, right? And that's what everybody thinks of, which is great. If you want to give financially, that's fantastic. But if you're a business that wants to get involved with helping out renovate a building and meet some needs that don't cost an arm and a leg, and you're willing to donate some time, let us know. We will happily, give you free advertising, the whole 9 yards. So once again, Green Scene, Jason Axe, thank you. So yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
Probably some good contractor. Oh, that was one question I was going to ask earlier.
Yeah.
So Mike Rowe, you familiar with Mike Rowe?
Yeah.
He's got, a bunch of stuff he's got going on these days, it seems like.
Yeah.
But like one of their things is a foundation for blue collar workers, to get training to become a tradesperson or,
Yeah.
all those things like you said, the arts. Is there some wealthy contractor that retires and says, hey, is there any of that?
Yes and no, right? I mean, the needs of the foundation, get met either financially through funds that are established. Let's say someone is successful and they say, hey, I'm really passionate about the arts, and so I want to start this fund to benefit those who are going to do things in the arts in our community.
Mm-hmm.
There's that way. And then there's the other way, which is, hey, the arts project, I'm being very generic, but the arts project needs volunteers who can help. Sometimes that involves the foundation, and someone might say, oh, I know so-and-so, and they're fantastic at this, this, and this. Let's call them and see if they'd be willing. Other times, as I'm sure that ends up just being community members stepping up and saying, well, that sounds like something fun, right?
Right.
So, yeah, let me get involved. And, it's like small communities are built through those types of relationships and activity over time. So that's one thing that I've always loved about Marysville is in my short lifetime so far, getting longer. But
I was going to say, we're not that young anymore.
Yeah, my back's hurting more every morning. But, that's one of the things I've always recognized about Marysville is it's really tough when you've lived here for a little bit to go somewhere and not see someone that has helped you in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like, oh, that person was an umpire at my baseball games growing up, or that person helped with the arts project I was involved in. You were talking dance recitals, and I remember going to my sister's dance recital every single year for a decade. So, and you kind of remember those faces and those names, and those are the people that are impactful over time, and they help you build a great community and want to stay in the community ultimately. So, so long-winded, but yes, there's people with different interests everywhere, and sometimes it's finance, sometimes it's time, but finding those people is a challenge just because we're all so busy now. Right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 points that I would get to if I can remember. One, I was just somewhat asking because I think that micro thing and those at graduation time every year you see the graduates come up, and it isn't very common. You see people going into the trades, and then there's been a cry for that for a while. Oh, it's underserved, so we could do that. And so it's cool seeing the Micro Foundation or whatever it's called. That's what they do is try to help kids in that situation. So curious if that was maybe a thing if you out there are in that position, maybe you could sponsor that. But that's what you were saying is a good segue into what I was hoping we could. Probably the biggest thing on my mind as we grow as a community, those are the activities that build community. And to me, it's hard to ignore the fact when you have more people, you have less connection.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be more connections.
Sure. Quantity over quality.
Yeah. And just less. There's just more separation because not everybody's connected. Like the smaller you are, the more people can know everybody. The bigger, obviously, that's common sense.
Yeah.
So just, always trying to think about what are the right things to support and what are the things to help push out there of how, because there's we can still be a small town even if we grow. That's not easy. But as we grow as a community, we're only getting bigger. And like you said, it means quantity, not necessarily quality. And so what are the things to be part of and support, and how do we do our best to hold on to what has made us a small town? And I think when I look out and see what's going on, trying to find the things that do that, like the foundation and bringing people together under kind of one roof, so to speak, to create that community. And how we can as a community step up in leadership and just volunteerism or giving our dollars. And so when I say that, what other things other than the foundation come to mind of good activities to engage in?
Well, I guess, I used to have now this is men specific, but this will maybe get to your point on where we're headed as a country a little bit. But, I used to have a mentor named Doug Frank, and he would say, every man has 0.8 close friends. Yes, 0.8 close friends. So
I won't disagree.
There are a lot of men out there who identify with 0 close friends, obviously, to make that statistic a reality. So I think ultimately it starts with being more intentional. If there are twice as many people living in the community, you're going to have to take extra time to get to know somebody. Be nice to somebody in the coffee line, and you might end up.
All right, that's all we need to say. Let's be done.
Strike up a conversation, and this is easy for me. My wife tells me I need to shut up more often because I talk too much and have the gift of gab. So maybe I'm the annoying guy who has the conversation in the coffee line, but. Be nice, because that person, honestly, like, they may have a kid that's going to be on your kid's soccer team, and they might have just moved here from the busyness of Hilliard, right? And they wanted to slow down, and Marysville's slow compared to what they came from. So, I think, like, one is being intentional, and then two, this is not going back to the foundation necessarily, but just understanding that most businesses have people in your community behind them, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't quite understand. The ice cream shop is probably owned by an individual that lives within 10 minutes of you, especially in Marysville. The coffee hall, we both know who owns the coffee hall with Riley. And it's like, that person is in and around your community. Support them. I love Starbucks. Please don't criticize me. I'll drink coffee from anywhere. But just understanding that, like, business and individuals are intertwined. And so when you're supporting local businesses, then you've got a chance to uplift your community just by getting a service or a good that you wanted in the first place.
And again, how do I keep this some ambiguity to the situation? Who cares?
Yeah, I'm being very broad.
No, I know, but I was going to say, I'm going to get in that analogy. I guess the point I'm going to make, I would bet money if I had to. There's a much greater chance Riley is going to donate to the foundation
than Howard Schultz.
Way before Starbucks.
Yes.
And so just your point of to take it to an extreme, so to speak. I remember listening to a guy who gifted gab, was kind of a clown in college, and can't remember the rest of the context of the story, but basically he was goofing around one day and blah, blah, blah. And I think he got to the point where, like, maybe he was doing speeches or something. And somebody came up to him afterwards and just said, so he viewed himself as a clown, is my point.
Okay.
And he was kind of saying he didn't have much of an impact or whatever at that point. 4 years later, a girl comes up to him, whatever he was doing. I think he was speaking again. Basically, she says, "You're the only reason I'm here. I was having the worst day at orientation. I was in line and you said," whatever it was. Like, I don't remember any of that.
Something funny or something
that girl
positive.
For 4 years was like, that guy made the difference. So anyway, on one hand, you saying just be nice to somebody in line. You never know what it's going to do. And to me, that's the foundation of a community.
Yeah.
Caring about the other people around you enough to be nice.
Yeah.
To the other end, give money to support your community and just everything in between. That's what builds a community. And those are the activities or the organizations that promote those kind of activities and opportunities for people to interact, be nice, serve in the same capacity.
Yeah.
And really,
like, we were joking about the Dairy Queen, kind of over text message. And it's like, the Dairy Queen, has a franchisee, that you probably know, right? I don't know who it is, but a lot of people probably know who runs the Dairy Queen. So it's like,
and I think one of them, I don't know that ownership as well, but I believe one of them I see walking by the coffee hall all the time.
Yeah. And so it's just kind of like understanding that, this idea of, like, corporation and individual being totally separated. It's not really there. And I think Marysville has, maybe this is the eternal optimist in me coming out, but, Marysville still has enough of this connection between people and its organizations and its businesses to where I think we can like continue to thrive as a small-ish community that is ever changing.
Yep.
So yeah. But
I got to say, half the time I'm having these conversations, I'm searching for the next thing to say, and every time you say something, I've got 5 things to respond with. So I'm like, how do I guess?
Just do
this is going to go on for 10 hours.
Do what Annie says and say, Matt, stop talking for a second.
Oh no, I love it. No, I'm saying I'm all in, but I'm like, oh, I'd love to get to every one of those points. One, in YouTube videos, a lot of times for engagement purposes, the host is like, leave a comment with. But no, I'm legit.
Comment Dairy Queen.
Actually, no, yeah. Here, okay, let's go to this. So one of the things I was thinking, I think in the conversations I've had on this topic, I think it's easy for people like you and I who have been here since 92-ish
yeah,
to say, it's going to be a small town. But for the people that just moved here, I've heard some say how hard it is to feel like they're part of the community and like work their way into the inner circle. And so I think there's a little bit of that separation, and to test it where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And I assume you would fall into this category. Who can remember the Cooper brothers at Dairy Queen?
Oh man. Hey, do you want eyes on your ice cream?
Ah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
If you do, comment, because it would be interesting to see of the people that watch this, who fits that old guard of eyes with that.
Yeah.
And you have to ask somebody that's older if you don't know what that is.
It's funny the lessons you learned from your childhood, but it was okay. The Cooper brothers, they take your order very quickly, right?
And talk very quickly.
When you walk up there as a kid, be ready with your order, right? For me, it was like, which baseball cup do I want my ice cream in, right? Is usually Cleveland Indians, right? Give me the Indians cup and give me twist ice cream. And do you want eyes on that? Absolutely, I want eyes on that. But it all happened in 4 seconds, right? And it was Mom and Dad, I think I did it correctly, so.
Yeah, but again, those stories that are making both of us smile, that's what makes a small town.
Yeah.
And so one of the other points is, like, I was driving by Texas Roadhouse, and as much as I'm annoyed that everybody's like, oh, Texas Roadhouse, like, okay, it's steak, whatever. I had a steak. It's nowhere close to the steak I have from home.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's
Your
good.
dad tells me you can grill, so.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
But they, as a corporate organization, I have seen them out at events giving out, here's free rolls, or here's peanuts, or here's something to come. Like, they are part of the community, but most corporations don't do that.
Right.
And so most of those places, are they really going to have, like, in 20 years, are people going to look back and say, I don't know, whatever restaurant, or, I mean, like, I went to Chipotle last night. Now this was in Columbus, but similar point. Sometimes you go in and it'll be $12.75.
Yeah.
Like, you get nothing versus the Cooper brothers. Yeah. And so,
well, that's where, and once again, maybe this is just my, you can identify this skill set however you choose with whatever adjective you would like, but maybe this is just kind of right up my alley where, I am talking to the folks at Chipotle so much because I'm there too often, to where, like, we're on a first name basis, right? They're saying, hey, do you still want chicken on the bowl? Yes, I do. Is it rice, cheese, chicken? Yes, absolutely. Same thing. But that sort of starts with this intentionality of like, oh yeah, there's a person serving me this food, right? This isn't a machine. I know some of us are going to get replaced by machines eventually. I get it.
AI, yeah.
But they're not at this point in some areas. So just kind of like taking a second to look across the glass and say, how's your day going? Right? Listen, if you get nothing and they go, what do you want? Great. Move along. Let's go.
Totally.
Yeah, let's get done with our lunch order. But at the same time, I knew a couple of those people who were on the line working at Chipotle all the time, and I'd see them twice a week. Say, hey, John, how you doing? Dylan, what's going on, man? How's life? I see you here all the time. Are you taking any time away from work? Yep. Right? And so it just takes, like, I think, a little bit of intentionality. I agree with you on so many ways. It's like, yeah, you a little bit every single year, it seems you kind of lose that connection. And so if you're not extra intentional with your time and with your words and with your eyes making contact, then you're going to lose it quicker. And I hope that doesn't happen. So and somebody on the phone this morning said, well, don't be so skeptical. Sometimes that's where in my head I'm like, there's a reason I do the good stuff, because that's not my nature. I got to be intentional about focusing on the good stuff, and sometimes. But It's okay. Maybe I'm optimistic here, but you get me on the golf course, I don't necessarily see the optimism in hitting it in the greenside bunker. So it's all good. It's all relative.
Perspective and
Yeah.
relative. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, maybe it's the unknown that's a little scary. What's our community? And part of it for me is, I drive through places around Columbus that are closer to Columbus that I'm like, this is just house after house after house after house after house. There's nothing that makes it special.
Yeah.
Or it's just another division on another subdivision. And
Yeah.
so I look forward and think, am I going to look back and say, well, yeah, now it's just another Dublin, and I didn't go to Dublin because I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's only so much you can do about it.
Not to talk a ton about Chipotle, but what do you think? What do you think about the Chipotle move that's happening?
So what
I have heard that Chipotle is relocating, or at least adding another restaurant.
My understanding was it was a new one.
Okay. Oh, so we're gonna have two.
Which I do have to say, I want to, so two would be cool. Again,
Yeah.
you were just saying there's nothing on our side of town.
Yeah, I bring it over. I put a Chipotle in the lot. 2 houses down. If it's me, I eat there way too much. So yeah, I was excited to see they'd be in front of Kroger, but unfortunately now I'm going to spend the money at Kroger, and then I'm also going to go right to Chipotle.
Starbucks, Chipotle, Kroger, got it all.
I know.
I mean,
they're creating a problem for just Matt personally. So with my wallet, but
now I can never say it. I do like it just because it's a cleaner food. It doesn't feel as greasy as all the other, whatever.
Yeah.
But to go to the local, have you tried the Mexican place in next to West Fifth Kitchen?
Oh yeah, Guelaguetza, right?
Yes. I'm not going to butcher the name.
No, that's okay. Fantastic.
That's about as close as I've gotten to Chipotle of like feet clean, good.
Oh yeah.
So check them out.
And West Fifth Kitchen, gosh, I hate saying this because I'm just like giving away the local spot. It's always it's like too busy now.
It was hard to find. I was going to say it's hard to find seats at lunch. So
we had to go to a different restaurant. It was so busy the other day, which made me happy and sad at the same time. But West Fifth Kitchen is amazing. Now I go in there and she asked me, hey, do you want your Cubano coffee? Right? Is it time for the afternoon Cubano coffee? I'm like, yeah, it's probably.
Now that's only like 100 yards from your office, so that
correct.
One, that was the easy one.
Yeah, and I get teased a little bit like, hey, you go there quite a bit, and I said, yeah, you know how long I've been clamoring for a great lunch spot, within 100 yards of the office. I got to go there and give them my dollars, right? I'm gonna eat something. So yeah, the Mexican side, if you're feeling spicy, Guelaguetza is amazing, and then West Fifth Kitchen. If you get the burger, you're gonna need a nap afterwards. That's just an FYI. It's fantastic, but it's a lot of food.
It's good. No offense to the rest, but I would say best in town.
I know.
The staff over there, Drew runs a good ship. Quality, perfection of, crispy and soft where it's supposed to be and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's good stuff. But, that's, again, I was just going to say, from the community building standpoint, Chipotle's cool and everything. Yes. But I was going to say, there was a period where the current Chipotle was a bit of a challenge. It was.
You could say that twice.
I'm going to, going in person is a bit of a challenge. I'm going to just order ahead of time. It'll be done.
Yeah.
Or not.
Maybe.
Or vice versa. That doesn't work. So you just hop in. I don't know. It was a hot mess there for a bit. But it seems like it's got a different manager in charge and doing last couple times in there.
Yeah.
Seems like young men in there are on it. Women are on it. And
yeah.
It seems like it's a different ship. So I've been, good job, whoever that was.
Seriously. Well, Jake and I at work, we have our financial nerd brains, right? We always equate dollars saved to quantity of burritos. So we always say, man, that's like $100. You know how many burritos that is? That's like 12 burritos. And so we'll always be doing the math on that. And because everybody goes, what's $80 worth? And we're always like, 7 burritos
make it real world.
Everybody goes burritos. We're like, we go to Chipotle too much. So that'll turn into Guelaguetza with that 100 yards from the office. Bad. So anyways.
But I was just going to say, you doing a good job there. But going into the one uptown, Guelaguetza, I think that was close.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went in there like, hunched over because my back was out and crooked, and like I used to have my phone looks like crap. It's got tape on it because I had a handmade wallet that I made for it that I kept my cards in. And that fell apart, and I haven't fixed it yet or rebuilt a new one. Anyway, so my card was in the car, and I'm like hunched over, and I ordered. I'm like, man, I gotta go out. And she's like, that's okay, we'll work on it. And so I go and come back, and she's like, it's already ready. Here you go. Like, sorry about that. And I pay, and she's like, oh, and Spanish to the guy behind the counter and comes out with a churro or
The churros?
Donut
the
kind of
brown
thing.
sugar? Oh,
Yeah,
my
she's
gosh.
like, these are for your back. Here you go. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
I've had a
my
crap
goodness.
day. Thank you.
Yeah.
But like, you don't get that at the corporate places as much. So
True.
just going back to that community building, like now
True.
forever, every time I see her, I'm like,
Yes.
well done. Thank you.
No, absolutely. You take, when you can get great local food, it's the best. You know the people serving it to you, and the food's great.
I was going to say, good
It's
food
fantastic.
with good service
Correct.
is why we go out.
Yes. Yeah.
Good
So,
stuff.
Yeah. It's a great plug, man. The lunch hour is going to continue to be busy at West 5th, I guess.
It is.
Yeah.
I'll talk to management.
I'll take a late lunch, I guess.
Well, the other one I've always thought I went to, I think it's called Late Night Slice downtown.
Yeah, so good.
Like I've always thought, well, it'd be great if we had like a buy the slice kind of thing. Like people always think I'm rightfully so weird in different capacities, but Hunt's Brothers Pizza at the gas station.
Okay.
Oh,
They do
like
it?
my favorite pizza.
Really?
Yeah, not everybody likes it. Sorry. But anyway, I think it's pretty fantastic. But you can go in and get a pretty good hunk of pizza. It's fairly hearty and I think it tastes pretty good. Oregano or whatever flavor it is, but it's really good.
All right.
Anyway, but the ability to like stop in somewhere and get a nice piece of pizza, it's cool. Anyway, so kind of like the Late Night Slice, which is more like 600 downtown.
Yeah.
Or,
600 downtown in Bell Fountain.
yeah, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Downtown.
Yeah.
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 That pizza's fantastic. But
Real
if you
good.
could get that like by the slice, I feel like
We'd-
uptown that would be awesome.
We'd have a weight problem. I'd be eating
more.
too many slices of pizza. So yeah, it's one of the things that's, obviously like Marysville, New York, I understand these are polar opposites, but you walk 4 blocks in New York and you have 5 opportunities to grab a slice of pizza, right? So sometimes you come back and you go, man, just one place would be kind of nice to just grab a slice of pizza. But yeah. So
And then on the other side of it,
there you
there's
go.
15 of them
For
everywhere
sure.
else.
Yes, exactly. A 15, entrepreneurs saying just buy a whole pizza, right? So yeah, I get it.
It works too.
Yeah, the business model's got to work. So yeah, but what else is going on? I mean, it seems like we're talking about change in the community and all these things that are happening. It seems like there's a construction crew
Everywhere.
on every corner. Some of it's new, exciting stuff. I keep teasing my boys about blizzards and then I say, oh gosh, the Dairy Queen's not finished yet. We can't get blizzards. And it's just kind of my internal family dad joke, but there's construction everywhere. Like what's going on? What's the scoop?
I partially feel like that's maybe starting to slow. Like maybe we'll see some sort of slowdown. I go back to 2008, leaving for college and coming back and like, oh, what happened with all this? I thought it was up and away, but it kind of slowed down. And so, part of me obviously I'm okay without the growth. I'd be all right with a little bit of a slowdown. At least the housing market seems like it's kind of pumping the brakes a little bit. It's not full force, which would be healthy. But yeah, I think there's just stuff everywhere and opportunities left and right. And, it's probably 5 years. I feel like there's too much. I can't keep up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then we've got Marysville East, Marysville North. It feels like, every direction there's something going on. And, it's interesting. I feel like it kind of kicked off and everything was, going crazy. And I think things have kind of caught up that people are realizing what's going on and, different points that planning commission and city council and the referendums that have come up to stop developments and some of that kind of stuff. So I'm curious on all of that. I think it's, obviously, hopefully it's obvious that I didn't mean this, but with the third attempt of the school levy to come through, part of me felt like I feel like the community needs kind of a slap to wake it up and get engaged.
Sure.
And I feel like it definitely did. It was, oh man, we better pay attention. And I think we're at that point with growth a little bit that people are starting to speak up and speak their mind and get engaged. Again, that's always, if I had to have one call to action, that's always what my call to action is.
Get engaged.
Get engaged. Do like whatever it is, do something, because I feel like the city or whoever.
I'm sorry, I have to say this. Get engaged without arguing. just have discussions with people. We talked earlier, like people are really smart. If you start with the mindset of this person's probably really intelligent,
learn something.
They may know something that I don't know. You might both be able to work together instead of shouting. So sorry, get engaged without becoming enemies with folks. I think would be a good start. Please continue.
Yep. And sales, they say, start from curiosity. How can you serve, and how
Exactly.
can you, it's good to be interested before you're interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be interested in what other people got going on. But yeah, just getting engaged, and I think so that leads me to another thing. But yeah, just getting engaged and waking up, and I feel like people are passionate, and people are, obviously it's going to come with its growing pains and challenges of people getting at each other's throats about different things. But real adventure comes from doing something and getting engaged and having something to struggle through and make progress and all of that stuff. And so with growth and construction everywhere. I have to take a quick side tangent. How much do you love I guess maybe you're on the other side of town, so you don't go that way. But the Coleman's Crossing, Northwest Park or Industrial Parkway roundabout, that's fantastic.
So
not for the next 90 days.
I know this is a controversial take, but I love roundabouts. I don't like the process to go from no roundabout to roundabout because it just disrupts everybody's lives, and it won't be 90 days. It'll be longer than 90 days for sure. But I went to, talking about getting involved, I went to this, I'm going to butcher the term, but it was Jerome Township. They had some sort of an economic meeting years ago.
Yeah.
They talked about what roundabouts do at intersections, and they don't necessarily cause fewer accidents from a quantity perspective, but they do eliminate the deadly accidents. So the severity of the accident comes down. And this is why, to your point, get involved. Because I went into this thinking okay, I like roundabouts, but Jiminy Christmas, how many are we going to build, right? We're trying to set a record, right? How many roundabouts in a row can we get? Dublin's already set that record. But then I learned, oh gosh, we're maybe eliminating the T-bone accident and
if you crash
deadly
this
one.
way instead of this way.
Yeah. So selfishly, I don't go out that way as often as others. So I'm going to say I'm not inconvenienced at all. My drive stops at Benny's Pizza. But at the same time, it's that's the challenging part about Marysville right now is we have had all this growth, and we don't really have the infrastructure that's ready for it in many different areas. Some we do, but not all the areas, right? A simple roundabout probably should have been planned for before the Innovation Park development took place, right? Maybe when there were just a few cars coming in there, but
it's such a weird.
That's hindsight 2020 and world of Matt. So I don't mean to be, living room quarterback, but
I've seen some things that they've I think it was behind Leon's, they put in those bump outs, which are annoying in my opinion. They kind of constrict
car wreckers
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was a month, I don't know, shortly after they ripped it up and redid it or something. And do we not have this? So to me, it's somewhat odd. It feel, did you ever hear about the $1.7 million toilet in California?
No.
And it was some representative story of I don't know if it was an art piece or something, or excuse me, but it just spoke to government oversight and all the process that it takes to do something simple, that it can be blown out of the water. And so sometimes I look at projects and think, for as much as I know that costs and as long as it took, and we're still not right.
Yeah.
I think we're not seeing the trees through the forest, or whatever that analogy is of are we really looking at the purpose or the whatever?
Yeah.
So some going into Meyer, that's where we get groceries.
Yep.
And it's got kind of this goofy shaped parking lot that I'm sure some engineer was oh, it works because of XYZ.
Weird.
Nobody really
Meyer.
follows it.
I love Meyer. The parking lot, terrible.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
So I see it. Oh, my favorite one. Well, that's the one I go to often.
Yeah.
But let's see, the new Wendy's across from Legion Park out your way.
Yes. Yeah.
By the old Kroger.
Yeah.
The McDonald's over there.
Yep.
You come in this way and you come out this way, and there's the median thing.
Yeah.
Half the people just cut through and go so that's anyway, just the over-engineered.
Yeah.
But then practically people are this is ridiculous. No, I'm not going to follow that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of that of how do we plan? So what I was hoping to transition to and maybe wrap up at an hour.
Very
I don't know how long people's attention spans are after scrolling all day. An hour.
Okay. Well, they're commenting, Dairy Queen in the comments.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I was having this conversation with somebody this morning. what is the vision of the community, moving forward? What are we all fighting together for? Like, what's the future? Why do we care if this works or that works? And, who's in charge? I feel like there's not, who's in charge? I don't know.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a great question.
Yeah. I don't know how to ask a specific question out of that, but that generality, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Right. I mean, on some people say, well, city council's in charge. Some people say, well, your local representative is sort of in charge, and well, your business owners are in charge, or well, hey, you in the community, you're in charge. I think it's a combination, obviously, but continuing to get people who are new to the community involved in the process of change, I think would be a good start.
Again, getting engaged.
Yeah. But also, just making sure, like, here we are. It's great to reminisce about the Cooper brothers taking your order at Dairy Queen and how much fun it was and how it makes you sentimental. And hey, used to hold a girl's hand skating around the skating rink, right? Before it was eliminated, and now it's Chipotle. Right. But those are cool stories. However, like you said at the very beginning, I think a lot of people move here for a specific reason. And, getting them engaged and involved in the decision-making process with people who have been here since 1960, 1970, 1990, right? I think is going to be really important to decide about the kind of community we want to have. In a way, once again, maybe the eternal optimist coming out in me, in a way, I think it's nice that we're one of the last communities to experience some of this growth, because you can sort of sit,
learn from
and
the others.
Observe. Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating to be like Dublin, but the thought that Dublin puts into their initiatives, I appreciate. It's very rare that Dublin does something and I say, boy, they really got this wrong. There may be things that they do that I don't like, but they rarely get it wrong. There are other communities, without naming communities, where I drive through and I go, gosh, they really sold every inch of this city. Anybody that would buy any inch, they sold it, they developed it, and boom, we've got 4,000 cars on a 2-lane 35-mile-per-hour road every day between 3 and 5 p.m. Not great.
Yep.
So I think trying to figure out like what the best path forward is. The good news is there's lots of great community leaders, and so.
So I guess that's a bit of what I've been trying to ponder and see, put my money where my mouth is, and saying, I feel like there's a gap in some of these areas. What can I do to be a part of that, or have people on the podcast to talk about it, or where's the there? I think that's the solution. That's where I'm going to go. And I feel like there's, in the, maybe it's the anti-growth in me or whatever, but the bigger we get, the more disparate those silos get, and there's not one.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of the challenge, because then it's like, well, I can't really come from curiosity and care what you think, because you don't care what I think.
Yeah.
And then that's what creates the division, the argument, and the whatever. And so just trying to find that, there are good leaders, and there's all these silos, but there's, sometimes
how do we get them together, right?
Yeah. And it's just an interesting, we used to have a mayor. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is like, we went away from that. And I part of it is too, not the, but just reality. And in my opinion, I feel like things happen and people say, wait a minute, we don't like that.
Yeah.
And then city leadership says, we had a vision casting process that you weren't a part of.
Yeah.
And so part of me would like to speak to, leadership and say, people don't want to come to those things. Like, how do you call them in better? And I get that it's frustrating when you make the effort to get feedback and then people complain.
Sure.
Well, still, people aren't really in love with, there's referendums that stop development and people speaking up against things. And just some of that, like, what is the right way to bring those two, because you kind of have the corporate, let's plan it out 5 years ago to say what we want.
Yep.
And then people say, I hate this roundabout.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Those two things.
Yeah.
One's thinking future casting a little bit, and the others. And so to me, that's part of the challenge, is different ways of approaching things, different goals.
Yeah. I think not to just beat this idea, but like being intentional about getting together with people face to face and discussing ideas is really, really important. I know that we're like in this, here we are on a podcast, right? But we're in this era of like, I listened to this thing, or I saw this video, or somebody hit me up.
I feel like I do that like 8 times a day.
Yeah, right. And that's a lot of our lives. But if you can sit down, for instance, it's like, you're probably one relationship away at most, maybe two, from Chip Hubbs, the CEO of the hospital, right?
Kind of
like,
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah,
idea.
I mean, and so like these people, they're not these fictitious figures that sit in an office all day and just do things that aren't relevant to the community.
And that is one nice thing around here. Like, it's not like, I mean, for the most part, the leadership that I know, bigwigs or whatever, most of them are pretty down to earth.
Exactly. And so like, I think it's intentional. It takes intentionality to get in touch with those people. If there's stuff that you don't like,
Sorry, I lost power in the camera. What's new?
We're back, baby.
We're back. So building community and supporting one another, blah, blah, blah. Having a vision, I guess, is where we were. Any final thoughts on that or anything else?
Oh, gosh. Big question.
I don't know.
You know, I think it probably starts with just maybe working to like identify the type of vision that you have for the communicate or for the community. And then
Don't put me in charge.
Well, yeah, and you know, this is once again not trying to be living room quarterback and say, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is all the things that I would have done had I known everything that I know today, right? But I think it does sort of start with the idea of establishing like what you want in a community. And you know, we're a democratic nation. If you don't feel that your vision is shared by the community, you have the ability to move, right? And I'm not saying move or that my vision is perfect or the community's vision is perfect. I'm, you know, being very down the middle here, but I think it sort of starts with like having an identity yourself and then also trying to put that identity into a vision for what you want your family to have in a community, right? It's like, it's really, really stinking hard to move to a community that you like and build a community and maintain a community. And, you know, we all get up and go to work and work hard every single day. You want to live and work in places that you love. So, you know, just being intentional about developing that vision for yourself and then communicating it in a respectful manner to other people. And then ultimately, you know, I think you and I agree, it's up to the people who are in leadership to actually listen to those visions and those identities of the community members, because sometimes, you know, a development agenda may not be in line with the vision that most of your community has. Sometimes, you know, growth is a great thing, right? I mean, you know, think about the growth that Honda has brought to the community over the years, right? But it's like, well, should we bring Toyota, Mercedes, and you know, BMW here? Well, probably not, right? It might not work out as well. So I think it's like multifaceted, but at the same time, you know, establishing your own vision and your own identity, and then also leaders actually taking the time to listen, not just tell us what they're thinking, but listen to actually what it is that is on our minds and concerns us about the next 5 to 10 years. I think that could be a good combination for a starting point on how
I like it. We'll end on that.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's a really good point to just, you know, kind of the or what's the, I'm getting my stories mixed up in my head.
The wires got crossed and now your wires are crossed.
Oh, yeah. I already keep up with it all. Don't throw stones in a glass house kind of thing, or, you know, the log in your own eye kind of idea of starting with that's a great point of start with your own build. Do we have our own communities, you know, good foundation of people that support you and keep you kind of grounded, and all that kind of stuff is good. But
I appreciate what you're doing, like with this podcast. You know,
thank you.
The good stuff.
Good stuff.
I like the starting point. I like the optimism, as I told you, eternal optimist here. But I appreciate what you're doing. Like, even if it's just facilitating conversation, we get to talk about, you know, the Dairy Queen memories and while the new one gets built, stuff like that. But it's just fun to reminisce, but also talk about like the type of community we want moving forward. And I think you and I align on many different areas. And I hope that Marysville is more prosperous, you know, tomorrow than it was 10 years ago. And
thankfully, I think it will be.
Yeah, doesn't have to necessarily be development prosperous. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I, as everybody says, if you're not growing, you're dying. Or a lot of people say, if you're not growing, you're dying. I say, well, we don't have to necessarily grow in population. We can grow in quality or
exactly
whatever, all the other aspects of improvement. Well, no, thank you for that. And thank you for taking me up on my Facebook call for, hey, come be on the podcast. It's
absolutely.
And come on back anytime you want. And good conversation. You know, we're at an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes. So
thank
good
you.
Conversation. No, thanks. Yeah. And they, to be honest, the foundation is one of those things I know about, but I don't know a lot about. And so it's nice to learn more and develop my understanding there. And like I said, maybe some things I can do to maybe get involved.
Yeah.
And always a delicate balance of not overexerting ourselves and to do too much. But
the Union County Foundation website's been revamped over the past 3 years. So if you want to get involved, visit the website. Just Google,
link below or wherever.
Google Union County Foundation. You'll be able to get in contact with us. And we'd love to have you help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And thanks all of you for hanging out. And hopefully if you've watched this, you've found some value in some of the conversation that we've had. If you have, leave a comment. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Or if there's anything you'd like to see moving forward, love to have you. If you'd like to sit over here, I welcome you, just like I welcomed this guy in here to have a good conversation. If you've got some good stuff to talk about, come on in. Until next time, take care.